necessary. You are it, residing in it. Even when we get onto the science part, every single tiny life pixel or particle contains all the energy and all the knowledge. So without having microscopes and all these other things of trying to explain the essence of that, it's probably about the best you could come up with. What is the kingdom of God like, and to what shall I compare it? It is like a mustard seed, which a man took and threw into his own garden, and it grew and became a tree. And the birds of the air nested in its branches. Like I was talking before about sacred geometry and how the seed of life grows through everything. The mustard seed reference is mostly used because it's so tiny. And so for a visual dictation, if I was trying to explain a atom or a neuron, the most smallest things, then I would have to use the most visual thing of the tiniest nature. So that's where you get the reference of the head of a needle and a mustard seed. They're so tiny. So it's like a mustard seed. So the smallest little light that resides even in what one may determine a bad person, say a murderer. That smallest little mustard seed of light and love still exists within that individual and in all things. And even that individual who have done low vibrational things through their life can still be all of that love and all of that light, just being the smallest piece inside. That consciousness, that love, and that light can grow into the most beautiful thing that one could ever imagine. There's nothing to stop this growth of consciousness. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the Kabbalah. It's referred to as the tree of life. This would have been some of the things Jesus would have been taught in Jerusalem. And the story goes, he was born and raised around the area, so he'd have been raised Hebrew and went through the temples, more than likely taught Kabbalah, but then traveled out through the Middle East and learned about Hindu and other cultures, and probably through the ancient wisdom schools in Egypt. And so Kabbalah is tree of life. It's a fun little reference from ancient teachings or ideology that applies to our everyday life and how to explain how things work. So, I don't know if you guys ever seen this image before, but it applies on the flower, which was seen in the last slide. But it makes a tree, and so you have the crown, wisdom, understanding, might, mercy, beauty, victory, splendor, foundation, and the kingdom, which is a reference of the physical body. The crown they would refer to as spirit or God, and these are pathways of frequencies is what I would call it. In essence, the whole understanding of this image and this teaching is that all frequencies above that come below has to be anchored through us. We are the anchor point of all these frequencies, even the one which you would call God or source of all creation. You have to touch it and attain it, to anchor it down here. All frequencies, all things in this kingdom have to reside through us. There's a whole lot of you could spend forever, a lot of this stuff you could spend forever, rabbit holes, just like, trying to feed the information in. So I'm just trying to give you a little grasp, you guys can look into this stuff and you'll spend lots of time chasing. I was actually kind of commenting with a guy one day, and it showed 32 pathways. If you chart this out, you'll come up with 32 different pathways to these different vibrations or attainments. And my favorite number is 33. And so as soon as I seen it, Spirit gave it to me, and he would put this kingdom here I would call Earth. The next one below it would be you and your body. And when you encompass all 32 pathways, when you encompass the whole tree into the body, then you obtain the degree of mastery, the degree to the 33, which you will find that number referenced throughout all of history, Masonic, Jesus died at 33, all these good things like that, you'll find this number.
I guess we're supposed to stay on this.
Well, let me go ahead and address what I was thinking then. Nothing happens by chance. So what was it? Oh yeah. Such as the Bible. Bible is a contemplation of stories. That's what Bible means. There is science Bible, medical Bibles. Bible means a contemplation of stories or information. The Bible is the longest kept piece of literature and history for a reason. Our Bible was translated through 4 different languages, or 3, I think the 4th being English. But the way it was done was through the fall of the Roman Empire. And so the word Catholic means universal. Well, in the past, when Catholic was a main religion, it was law. We do not understand what the heck that means into modern day for religion to be a law. This means I would have been burned at the stake. I've probably experienced lots of deaths due to this inner knowledge that resides in all of us. And so Catholic means universal. Well, guess what? The air is Catholic. Water is Catholic. So this power control and this structure kind of wanted to wrap up all religions, because people fight wars over religion. They overthrow governments for religion. So the best way to subdue the population would to be create a religion that they could all agree to. And so that's why you have so much perverted information that's in our modern Bible. Through this universal collaboration of information, they've kind of encompassed probably 20 different religions and applications, and manipulated and twisted things in a way to give us this beginning and story that we call the modern Bible. Even recently, they found books of the Bible that's not in there. Mary Magdalene had a book. Book of Thomas will correlate a lot of the things that we're talking about here today to actual Bible text. And so through research and studying, you will find, looking at other religions and things like this, other pieces to the puzzle, because each religion kind of has a piece to the grand scheme of the giant puzzle that we would call life and understanding. Just so happens the Bible and the story of Jesus is the most powerful, and because the most powerful energy that it resides in this universe is that love and compassion that was displayed in the story of Jesus. Whether Jesus was a real man or not, or if there were multiple men who walked this path, is really irrelevant. The most monumental part that I find in the Bible is the resurrection, or the crucifixion, which may or may not have happened because the Son of God dies on the cross and rises again every year on December 22nd. The Son of God, which is actually our bright ball sun that rises in the eastern sky every morning and greets us on the clouds. The sun tracks across. If you track it across the sky, it stops on the horizon on December 22nd. It's its lowest point as it crosses through the seasons. At that point where the sun stops for 3 days, the sun does not move from that point. There's a constellation over it that makes a cross. So therefore, our sun in the sky, the Son of God, dies on the cross every December 22nd. It stops on the horizon for 3 days, and on the 25th, the sun starts rising again in the horizon, because it's telling us that spring is coming. The reason why people track the heavens and why the heavens is so important is seasons. Food. We all need food to eat. And how do we know when to plant our crops, and when warm weather is coming, and when the darkness isn't last as long as in the springtime? And so it's very vital for us to understand the cycles of the seasons. So the Son of God, Jesus, had 12 disciples? Well, there's 12 seasons. He had, there's 12 months in a year. And so he had 4 apostles, 4 seasons. On the solstice, December 22nd, the brightest star at the time is Cyrus, the 3 kings that visit the sun. The brightest star next to Cyrus, you'll find Orion's belt. So there's a lot of sun and astrological correlations in the Bible, a lot of sun worship, obviously, Jesus, the Son of God. In translation, they used to call it the lazy O. So think about writing, a lot of cursive, and how you pick up. If you write a U, you have to pick up pen, things like that. So if you're transcribing and write a lot, it's a whole lot easier to do this. So they call it the lazy U, or the lazy O. So if you were to read the Bible, most applications where it says sun, S-O-N, you can apply sun, S-U-N, as in the sun. But the most beautiful part of the whole story, the parable, whether it's true or not, is this ideology that is given to us, that a man was beaten to death, or beaten and hung, basically in the name of love. The most beautiful part of this, and the most application that everyone should apply in their everyday life of this understanding, is the love and the power of love. If someone was beating you to death, the love that you are, that resides in us, if we connect with that, for someone to beat you and for you to ask for forgiveness, you're truly standing in the essence that you are, that you would ask for someone to be forgiven for the very beating of your body and the murder of yourself. That is a true story of love and its power. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant, because that is a magnificent display of what you are.
Why we're stuck here.
Let me try the battery spin again.
There it goes, finally. Okay. Can we skip some? It's like,
No, I think that's right.
is that right?
Yep. So, energy. Everything in this reality is energy. I like to call this reality the school of emotion, because we encompass energy and emotion. We call it emotion. Emotion affects a lot of things in our life if we are controlled by emotion. So the Hindu and parts in the East talk about chakras, which are just energy meridians in the body. Also applies to the tree of life, which we just covered in the Kabbalah. You can find these same references in there. Crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacrum, root. Funny enough, we have 7 again, just like the Hermetic principles or the creation story of 7. All of these energy points and meridians of the body, when they're balanced or out of balance, we have out of balance effects. It affects our emotion, but it also affects our organs. Each one of these energetic points affect a certain section of organs and emotions. And so we are always working and moving through these energetic points. When we reside in that 0 point, that non-judgmental, compassionate love, then we are balanced of all of our energy meridians. Whenever we get angry, depressed, greedy, judgmental, any of these things, they will apply to different imbalances in the body, which plays out energetically in how your body works. Say, your stomach hurts, can apply to an energy meridian and an emotion and a thought and a frequency that is unbalanced in that part, and applying to how you feel in your your body. This energy is covered in many, many different ways. I use the term life energy. If you search through, you will find words like ki, which is from the word Reiki. Tao call it chi, which is a reference to where I was talking about the lady with the heel cancer in 3 minutes. The yogis call it prana. In the West, if you search around here, you'll find a guy named William Reich, who discovered a lot of different energy technologies. He called it orgone energy. Mana, baraka from Hebrew, light, Holy Ghost by Christians, bioplasmic energy by Russian researchers. A new one that I found here recently looking into pyramid technology is scalar energy. The whole world has been studying and seeking this energy and this information and talking about it, and so there's 100 different ways of explaining this life energy that drives love and life, is what I like to call it. It is the energy in and around all things, and it is what pushes this constant change and this constant growth. Let's go over a little science here, and randomly how these science ideology applies in our everyday life. Isaac Newton was a big philosopher after Plato and these other philosophers who had a more scientific approach to certain things. Come up with a lot of measurements and calculations, and these guys over here are what they call the fathers of quantum mechanics, a group of guys who have based and researched the idea of quantum mechanics in the beginning, which is way more profound in understanding today's technology in 2019. I'll use the word Newtonianism for the teachings of the science of Newton. Newtonianism, determinism, separatism, reductionism, materialism. This idea, through the science application that Newton has given us, is the law of inertia, laws that equal and opposites. Basically, that all we see is matter. Everything is matter, everything is measurable, everything is finite. Everything is matter-based. This is real separation ideology of science. If everything is matter, it really cuts you off from spirit that you are. So we'll see how these apply through everyday life. Quantum mechanics, quantum science is very complementary to Newton's ideology and to other science applications. It's very contextual. It applies consciousness, and connectivity. Everything is infinite and malleable. Everything is interconnected. Everything is connected to spirits. Everything is moved by spirits and humans. I like the word hue as in light, because we are humans. We are light man. We are light encompassed in a fancy little vessel that we call a body. Okay. Just gonna do a quick rundown of this quantum mechanics. So what they've discovered is the application of how particles work with one another. So if I were to take a piece of paper and cut two splits in it, and I was to shoot marbles through it, each marble would go through the split and would hit the wall in the exact same line of the piece of paper that I shot through, and the other ones would stop where the paper was. Well, not necessarily marbles. We'll say we're using metal. And so the matter itself is going to follow the path of no resistance and apply the same pattern on the wall behind us. Well, whenever they used water and they applied water to this same slit experiment, as the water wave goes through the two waves, they interfere with one another, and you end up with the spectrum on the back, almost like the rainbow spectrum, which simulates chakras and everything that we visually see as light. And so what was really confusing at the beginning, and what they're trying to explain with the quantumness of reality, is when they shot light particles through this same experiment. So they expected the light particle to act like a physical piece of matter. By Newton's laws, the light particle should have just made two lines on the back. But that's not what happened. They ended up with an interference pattern, like the one on the top here, with a spectrum of possibilities of where this light pattern could land. So this is where they come up with the foundation of quantum mechanics, that nothing is finite, nothing can be duplicated. You can apply this to your life. So you have a great day, and all these events just happen one after another, just perfect synchronicity. It's just so great. I don't care what in the world you do. You can apply all those same characteristics and idea, but you will never duplicate that experience. Just not possible. How many times has somebody tried to plan something out and they're not go according to plan? Or how many times have you done something spontaneous and it just come out magnificent? Nothing is 100% concrete. By the act of being consciousness and a consciousness reflection, the act of observing and the act of having an outcome applies effect to how things really work. So in quantum mechanics, they come up with probabilities. You know, if I do this and this and this, then there's a probability that this will happen. That's kind of how things go when we plan events and things such as that. You know, I was a good probable that I've been here last Sunday to introduce myself, but you know, things happen. And so that's the great thing that quantum mechanics has taught us, is that we have a direct effect on all things. Nothing is finite. Nothing is 100% the same, which makes sense because of the only guarantee we have in life is change. And so that makes a lot of sense, that we can't duplicate or make things 100% or finite. Consciousness influences all things. There's no way around it. And so it's funny how these scientific ideologies has played out to religious, political, and social structures. You wouldn't think so. But under the Newtonian idea of science, religious ideas, what we would call source or God, would be outside of us. Creates the idea of separation from one another. Wars for belief systems and ideology, because you should believe like me. Like I said, you know, the Bible was translated to help subdue the population, to make them easier controlled, because people will kill in the name of their God. Laws for control, that Newtonian idea keeps you closed-minded, because everything is measurable and finite, so what I believe is true and what you believe is not. Makes you judgmental, same thing. It puts the power that we have outside of ourselves, has the be like me mentality, be like me, believe like me. I like to say the reason why people go out in numbers with their belief system, everybody wants them to believe like them, is because they're lying to themselves. Because subconsciously all the information resides inside of us. So if I'm following this ideology of outside of me, then I'm going against the subconscious information that I know. So I'm trying to lie to myself. If more people believe my lie, then it's easy for me to believe my lie. So there's powers in number. The funny thing about truth is, it doesn't matter who believes what is true. Truth is truth.
That's right.
Don't believe like me. What I know is true to me, and it doesn't matter if 2 people believe it, or 2 trillion people believe it. I still understand and know what I found inside of myself that resides in all of us. Some of the latest quantum research, which I like the idea is fluid dynamics, and so whenever the electron is basically, this is all energy around us is fluid. Like, you only see so much of the rainbow spectrum. But your cell phone has frequencies and energy, microwave, which is crazy to even have one. But I mean, you take your food and you heat it up. Well, what heated it up? That was frequencies and energy that you can't see. So I'm swimming in a plasma of energy that's in and around me. We just can't visualize it. So the reason why that electron acted like the water is because it was riding on a wave of energy. And by that determination of the observation, depict where it went, because this is all fluid. And the political idea of Newtonianism, you have dictatorships. Democracy is just another form of a dictatorship. What you would call anarchy. The only free people in this whole rock were the indigenous. In this country, we killed and ran off the only free people. The only people that understand and actually live in freedom in the modern day society are the indigenous cultures. That is real freedom. That Newtonian ideology has one ruler, religious divide, believe only my party and my aristocracy of belief. We draw imaginary borders in the sand for resources, and hoarding, we create technology for wars to hoard resources or steal resources from a neighbor. The social application of this Newtonian idea teaches us to worry about ourselves because we have to survive. So I have to worry about me so I can survive for myself. It produces a strong ego. It keeps you in that reptile part of reptile mind, which is that survivalist mentality. It's all mind, no mind-heart connection. That social application is be like them, be like that actor, be like that athlete, be like blah, blah, blah. Service that applies to being service to self, because I've got to build mine up so I can survive the best and the happiest. This quantum ideology of science has great applications with society, political and religious structure. Quantumly, we're all one. We're all interconnected. Everything is affected by each one of us. The quantumist religious would teach that source or God is inside us and inside all things and outside of us also. With this quantum ideology, people are accepted to differences. Uniqueness is such a beautiful thing in this fractality reality. Any belief system is okay in that quantum application of reality. Believe what you want. You are love and light. There's nothing going to change that. There's no judgment in that. It tells you that the power is inside of you, not outside of you. Oop. It don't work when I don't want you to. There we go. Oop. I think I gotta hold it down. There we go. This application, which you will find through most religions, you will find a different variation of this same thing. Treat others the way you want to be treated. The quantumness of this is treat others like they are you. You are me, so I need to treat you as I want to be treated. But in essence, how we treat ourselves, how we talk to ourselves in our mind, is how it reflects outside of us, how we interact with one another. So, the murderer They have a lot of pain. They have a lot of things going on inside of them, and that reflects outside of them. People that are angry and judgmental, they are angry inside and judgmental of themselves, and that's how that applies to their interactions with others. So treat others like they are you, and you will change the world. Definitely the one you live in. This political application of the quantumness reality is community and unity, not the hoarding mind in my small space. It's freedom, real freedom, not this ideology that we're given in our country of America of being free. Yes, we are one of the most free countries, but we are not what you would call really free. The most free, but not absolutely free. This political application with quantumness brings upon sustainability. You know, it's crazy that we still use fossil fuels and oils and things like this. It's easy for people to just stand back and be aware of technology and how things have grown. I'm now but 33 years old, and you know, when I was born, it would have taken me many lifetimes to affirm all this information that I'm presenting in front of you right now. This would have taken many, many lifetimes over and over again to correlate all this information and to affirm it to myself, because the information comes from within, but we like to reinforce our ideologies when someone has that same correlation. And so technology, as you can see, we've used fossil fuels for 100 years the same way, but I carry around a computer right here, a cell phone. When I was born in '87, people didn't really have computers, and I remember the first ones that come out sometime in the '90s, floppy disk about yay big. You weren't doing much with it, maybe playing some Pong, but it was really all code and things like that. In 1999 or 2000, 19 years ago, 20 years ago, I remember I'm a nerd. The computer I got was like 950 megahertz processor in it. My phone right now is probably at least 15 times as more powerful as that was like 20 years ago, and way more compact. Very first computer took up a room like this. You know, my desktop computer was pretty big. I think it was a micro version, you know, so the tower was a little bit smaller. But all of that power has been way increased and made way smaller. You know, I carry way more power and way more information right here in my back pocket that you can go find in a library or anywhere else. But you have not seen this application to the way we live as far as energy. So obviously that means someone's controlling these applications to control us. And so sustainability, the quantumness, and these new science and technologies will bring us upon sustainability and free energy. That's world liberation. Free energy is monumental to liberating the world. I do a lot of research myself on free energy. You know, I want to start a community, be the change that you want to see in the world. You know, so I want to create a healing center with holistic healing methods for people to facilitate. I want to start a sustainable community. I'm a carpenter. I'm ready to do this. Land, water, moving water, clean water, power, grow your own food, truly be free. the most addictive thing in this world is real freedom. And so once people start to taste that real freedom, there will be no turning back. This quantum essence applies through harmony and cooperating with one another on a political scale, and technology for sustainability and liberation instead of technology to kill our fellow brothers and sisters. This social application is also community, service to others, helps you release the ego and the idea that I am this body and this vessel that I reside in, brings on the social structure of unity, connects that heart and mind together, which is what helps complete you whenever you use your mind and heart together. Is very powerful. And it teaches it applies to be unique and be yourself. Don't be like anybody else. Find out who you are truly and be that the best you can be. So I said I was a nerd, and so I've got a little fun nerd reference here for you guys that I think will help explain some of these things. And so you have the yin-yang symbol. It's a reference of energy. A lot of people would think this is good and bad. Nothing in life is good or bad. So obviously this image isn't an ideology of what's good and bad. I think the black would represent a manifest energy, something that's non-local to us. And I would say that the white represents local light. This is all light. What we would call physical is a reference of light. When you look into the sky, into the vast darkness, there's energy there. They call it dark energy. They used to say it was empty because they really didn't know. In essence, all things is energy. Even what we don't see is energy. Like I said, this is like a plasma around me. So I believe the white represents the physical that we can see. So the light, the physical, if we were to be fully encompassed in this and have balance, we would be really focused on like Newton's laws and Newton's science, that Newtonianism. But if you guys have a computer or a cell phone, when you buy your cell phone, you don't have any service on it. You've only got a select pre-installed amount of software. You can only do so much with your phone without having the internet or the phone connection. You can't even make a call or anything like that when your phone isn't working. And so that's kind of how it works in our life. As we're born, we're giving these sets of ideology. We have this basic software that was given to us by our parents and our schools and our political leaders and our religious leaders. Is this pre-installed software that comes when you first buy the new computer, when you first pick up the new spacesuit. And so when we are out of balance, we lack that understanding of who and what we are, and these applications apply with heavy ego and identity, being a lack of aware who we are and how things work. It's really based on the physical, the dense. It represents our five senses: touch, see, smell, hear, all those good things that we rely on heavily with our regular senses. But we all know that there is more than what meets the eye, because we understand intuition. And people pick up people's energy all the time. When someone's in a bad mood, someone usually, you can kind of pick up their vibe, especially if you live with someone or if you have a partner. You really know. You pick up their vibe. If you come home, your wife's mad at you, you probably know before you walked in the door because you picked up that energy. because that's how energy goes. It's transcends all dimensions also. I can send you love across the world, and if you're open and receptive, then you would feel it. This is based on what we can see. So when you buy that cell phone brand new, or you buy a new computer, it only comes with that pre-installed software. This is what we were teach and taught and learned through our experience. It takes no energy for the automation of this body and the physical. I breathe and I blink. All these things are automated. It takes no strength for me to keep this thing just going. As long as I keep putting food in it and going to sleep, then it's going to automatically keep on kicking. So this other energy, which I like to call the non-local or the manifest energy, is kind of like whenever you get, it's like the service on your cell phone, or when you hook your computer up to the internet, you have access to all types of files and information, just like consciousness. As you connect to the consciousness inside of you, you have that access to all that information also. It's like having full service on your cell phone. This is consciousness energy. I like to call it manifest energy. So you have the light that we see, and then that love vibration, which is manifest energy that pushes all things. The senses that apply to that would be our other senses, like intuition and things like that I was talking about. This energy is invisible, is in all things. That's why I would say it's invisible. It's inside of us. We can't yet see it with any of our current technology, but you can feel it. You are it. For the spiritual part of ourselves, it takes work and inner discovery. It takes awareness. If I'm walking down the street and just kind of blah 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 whatever, I'm not using my senses or perception. I'm blinking and breathing, all on autopilot. If I want to connect to my inner vibration and trying to discover myself, then I have to put work in with calming my mind, concentrating and controlling my breathing. So I have to just be aware. I have to cut off that autopilot and become in control and aware. And so we're constantly back and forth between this spin of this energy. And I like the little dot here. So my reference is, even if you're fully in autopilot, fully in the physical, fully in the five senses and the light and the density of the hologram, you still have the smallest little spark of that life energy or that love and light, no matter what. Well, if you were to meditate or do ceremony and things to extrapolate yourself from this physical vessel to tune in, the way consciousness works, if you were to fully tune into consciousness, you have no body. There is no anchor to the here and now, because that's how the information and consciousness works. And so people who astral project and do different things like that, they talk about a tether to the body. And so you want to take these bounces and encompass them through your everyday life. The social paradigm of Newtonianism is separation, and the social paradigm of the quanta is all is one and all is connected. A few quotes for you guys here. life is not birth, but awareness. It's a nice reference to resurrection there. And salvation. Salvation is to understand what you are truly is salvation. You're not born whenever you come out of the womb. You are born when you realize that you are love and light. That is to be born or born again. All are immortal matter, life, spirit. Every living thing is constituted. Everything is immortal. Even this body, once I'm done with this suit, it will morph in many different ways to bring life on other ways. It will decompose and bring food to worms and ants and continue this cycle. Everything seen has been begotten because at some point has came to be seen. Just like I talked about the carpet. There's carpet here because the first person who laid the carpet down agreed that there was carpet here. Everything in this reality that we experience has been agreed upon in one way or another, whether it was directly by us or not. There's nothing in the cosmos that doesn't live because all is conscious. Even this is a representation of consciousness. Those are some old Hermetic quotes from Hermes Trismegistus, or many names you will find as you look up that information. Max Planck, who came up with the Planck theory, says, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. So even the scientist guy, he's like, consciousness is it. It's just a driver, it's a force to be understood. It is impossible to completely separate ourselves from the oneness of the universe. All is one, all is interconnected, and we affect and manipulate everything around us, being conscious beings and working through here. Thoughts and frequencies. This is a diagram where someone has tried to apply numbers to thoughts and frequencies on a measurable scale, starting at 0. They use the chakra colors, as you can see here. So if we were to think of vibrational and thoughts, I know as I've grown to understand myself more and more, I have become more susceptible to the energies that come from my thoughts. So the more aware I've become, the more sensitive I become. So I feel every thought I have inside of my body directly. So I definitely can understand the vibrational application of thoughts and frequencies because I actually feel them inside of my body. And I'm sure you guys how, whether you are aware of it or not, the more aware you become of yourself, the more you'll become aware of these frequencies. The lower vibration, whether you've experienced or not, the lowest vibration that exists on this plane is shame and guilt. That lowest vibration is when you don't want to be here no more. You're so low down in life that you would just rather make it all go away and end it, or run to some type of abuse to try and hide it. These are the lowest vibrations that exist here that we can encompass in our vessel. The highest vibrations that we can encompass is joy and love, when you're happy. Love is great, but laughter and joy is probably the most healing thing that there ever is. If somebody's in a bad mood, if you could ever just get them to laugh, get that one little joke, it always changes them. You can tell them you love them and hug them, and that helps. But if you can get them to laugh, that's just instantly you're going to get them. You're going to get them up that scale pretty quick. They say that that in society we probably stay around the acceptance range here, which is depicted as 350. Probably the average vibration is acceptance to the way things are. And so on a growth, we've probably been through these cycles up and down as the organism of consciousness and humanity as it has grown. There we go. Up to. This image here is still the same thing. It's just a little different diagram to show you the energy movement of thoughts in those frequencies. The baseline is boredom. I'm sure you guys probably experience it whenever you're not really doing much and you hit that boredom threshold. It's kind of a start on the downward spiral. If you don't arise above that boredom to contentment, probably going to go down the spiral with pessimism, frustration, irritation, overwhelming disappointment, doubt. All these things are lower vibrations that pull us down that spiral. Fear and grief and depression being a very strong lower vibration is actually how society is controlled this day and time. These thoughts and frequencies, everyone from religious and political, you're controlled by fear. That salvation, that freedom, that liberation, there's no such thing as fear, because we understand this is the mechanism that controls us. You're scared of terrorists. Well, it's like being scared of ghosts. Watch out for the invisible things that might get you. Same thing through religion. You can be scared of hell. It's just a ploy of control, and fear is the easiest one. Our vibrational thoughts, once we get above boredom, contentment, hopeful, optimism, positive expectations, enthusiasm, passion, joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation being at the top. Love and appreciation, gratitude, these things go a long way. Really, there's not any place that you could be in your life to really be where there's not something to be grateful for. If you woke up, if you're breathing, if you're walking, you got all your digits work. You could go on forever with things that you could be grateful for, even if you're not